to the British royal family is this idea of a royal reconciliation. And we have some of the top aides having these super secret meetings here in London.
They said the whispers were only rumors. They said the Yacht Girl stories were just tabloid nonsense. But now Tom Bower has dropped another bombshell, and this one is striking at the very heart of Meghan Markle's carefully crafted image. He isn't just repeating old gossip, he's revealing a mysterious secret that Meghan never wanted the world to hear. If you thought the scandals were over, think again. Because what Bower just exposed could change the entire narrative around the Duchess forever. And trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next.
Conveniently packed, photographed, and every last detail in the Daily Mail. Tom Bower, what was your reaction when you saw those headlines?
I thought it was confection.
For years, Meghan Markle has tried to bury one particular rumor, the so-called Yacht Girl whispers. Every time the story popped up, her team dismissed it as slander, claiming it was nothing but fantasy cooked up by jealous tabloids. But here's the problem. Rumors that survive for more than a decade usually stick around for a reason. And Tom Bower has just revived them in a way Meghan can't ignore. He argues that Meghan's early career doesn't look like the steady grind of a hard-working actress. Instead, it looks suspiciously like a fast track built through wealthy connections, secret parties, and calculated networking. The image of a struggling actress making it big on her own just doesn't add up when you see the pattern Bower lays out.
It was manipulation. I thought that it showed, firstly, Harry absolutely desperate. I thought that Meredith Maines, who is a very aggressive PR for the Sussexes.
And this is where it cuts deep. Meghan wanted the world to believe she was the fairy tale star who landed a prince purely through love. But Bower flips the script and says, no, she built her entire trajectory on influence, charm, and proximity to powerful men. It's a brutal picture. Even funnier, while Meghan has spent years running from the yacht rumors, Harry looks like the only guy who never checked Google before saying I do. Honestly, sometimes it feels like Harry bought the deluxe package without reading the reviews. And that's the kind of joke that makes even royal fans raise an eyebrow. But Bower doesn't stop there, because the whispers about yachts are only the beginning.
Got way beyond herself, because she really doesn't understand the British royal family or Britain, but understands how to project her clients. And so I think she got it wrong by leaking it, or even letting anyone know about.
If the yacht stories were painful, what comes next is humiliating. Tom Bower claims Meghan isn't just inspired by Princess Diana, she's obsessed. He points out the outfits, the poses, the staged paparazzi moments, all carefully designed to mirror Diana's iconic image as the persecuted princess. But here's the problem. You can't copy authenticity. Diana was adored because she was genuine, vulnerable, and relatable. Meghan, on the other hand, comes across as staged, strategic, and opportunistic. Bower's words sting. You can't be Diana. Instead of a tribute, Meghan's efforts look like parody, and the public is no longer buying the act.
That was a great mistake. And I don't think it'll produce what they hope. And I think in the end, I don't think the Sussexes themselves know what they want anymore. But so
It's almost comical when you see Meghan step out in yet another tribute outfit. At this point, people joke she must have Diana's wardrobe saved on Pinterest. And Harry, well, imagine marrying someone who copies your mom's outfits. That's not just awkward, that's therapy-level awkward. The reality is brutal. Instead of becoming the next Diana, Meghan has become a poor imitation, a Hollywood spin on a royal legend, and that's exactly the line that made headlines across the globe. But if you thought fashion copycatting was the worst of it, just wait, because Tom Bower's next revelation hits where it hurts the most. Meghan's endless contradictions. This is where Tom Bower drops the line that went viral. Meghan has spun so many stories, her lies could flood the earth. And when you look at the list, it's hard to argue. She claimed she never Googled Harry before meeting him, yet somehow knew shocking details about his family. She gave one version of when she first met the late Queen, and then contradicted it months later. Even her Oprah interview, the moment she thought would cement her as a global victim, was full of claims that unraveled within weeks. The point isn't just that she stretched the truth once or twice. It's that every time the spotlight hits her, another inconsistency appears. And after a while, the world stops keeping track. They just assume every new statement is a spin job. That's devastating for anyone trying to control their brand. Once credibility is gone, it almost never comes back.
We've also seen, haven't we, the story by Victoria Ward in the Telegraph, where they were talking about, you know, and that upset the palace quite a lot about talking about funeral arrangements and things.
Even Harry hasn't helped. He famously said he was protecting Meghan the way he couldn't protect Diana. Sweet words, sure. But if your wife's stories don't add up, maybe start by protecting her from her own contradictions. Honestly, at this point, Meghan's memoir should just be titled 50 Shades of Different Versions. But while contradictions ruin her public trust, the cracks aren't just in her words. According to Bauer, they run straight into her marriage.
Legacy. And is this about looking like the bigger person? Because he preaches a lot about forgiveness. We heard him talk about open borders. Sometimes he's very kumbaya. And I wonder if he's trying to put his money where his mouth is.
Behind the glossy Netflix documentaries and carefully staged paparazzi shots, Bauer paints a very different picture. He claims Meghan and Harry's marriage is less of a fairy tale and more of a fragile business partnership. According to insiders he cites, Meghan even uses their children, especially Lilibet, as sympathy shields whenever criticism gets too strong. That's a brutal accusation, because instead of fixing problems privately, the narrative becomes about motherhood and victimhood, distracting from the real fractures in the relationship. To the outside world, it begins to look like smoke and mirrors, a marriage propped up by cameras, PR teams, and staged smiles.
You know, because how can we take him seriously when he's meeting with Ukraine and Trump and trying to make peace as a global leader when he's not even at peace with his son?
Well, I think I disagree with you about that, because Charles, when he was the Prince of Wales,
And honestly, doesn't Harry always look like the guy who agreed to star in a reality show without reading the fine print? Half the time, he seems more like Meghan's bodyguard than her husband. Viewers joke he went from Prince Harry to Prince Carry My Wife's Bags. But jokes aside, this shift is serious. What once looked like a royal love story is now being framed as a calculated partnership, one that's struggling to hold itself together under the weight of constant scandals. And if you think the marriage issues are damaging, wait until you hear what Hollywood thinks, because Meghan's next battle wasn't with the palace, it was with the very industry she thought would embrace her as a star.
for anyone who said no to him. So he's a man who hates confrontation, and he has no forgiveness for people who don't agree with him. So I think the whole thing with Harry is it's guilt. I mean, it's guilt as a result of the divorce, the relationship with Diana.
When Meghan left the UK, she thought Hollywood would crown her its new queen. For a short while, the red carpets and big interviews seemed to prove her right. But quickly, the shine faded. Producers whispered she was difficult, celebrities started avoiding photo ops, and the invitations to A-list events slowed down. Instead of Hollywood royalty, Meghan was seen as risky baggage. And the old Yacht whispers didn't help. They resurfaced just as her career was supposed to take off. Imagine expecting to be treated like Grace Kelly, but ending up as a headline no one wants to touch.
The fact that Harry is rather dim and he didn't look after him to make sure he had a role. But more, it was neglect as well in his teenage years when he was chasing Camilla and all the rest of it.
Club H is
Even funnier, people joke that Meghan didn't move to Hollywood for acting gigs, but just to perfect her role as professional victim one. And if the Oscars ever handed out trophies for that, she'd have a whole shelf by now. But it wasn't just Hollywood walking away. Meghan's obsession with controlling her own narrative made things even worse.
Yeah. Well,
Because the guy's not trusted.
Rob, when Harry made that dash to London, when the King revealed his cancer, to my surprise, Camilla was in the room for the 30 minutes. And she was there to make absolutely certain
I don't know
that
that's
Harry...
right.
That
I don't know
Harry,
that's true.
You don't think he was there?
No, I don't. In fact, I'm pretty certain she was.
From the Oprah interview to the Netflix series, Meghan demanded final say on every detail. She wanted to script her life like a movie, where she's always the heroine, but the more she tried to control the story, the less believable it became. Audiences aren't blind, they can smell spin. Instead of authenticity, people saw overproduction. Instead of honesty, they saw PR strategy. Bauer says this obsession with image turned her into the opposite of Diana. Not beloved but distrusted. And really, when every photo looks staged, when every word feels rehearsed, the public checks out. Meghan wanted to be remembered as a global icon, but she's starting to look more like a walking press release. But the real blow came when even the public, once on her side, stopped showing sympathy altogether.
There's going to be a draw there.
And I think it's interesting because we always say, look at what he did to William and Catherine, and that is very important, and I believe it was cruel. You're suing all of these newspapers for leaking private information while publishing private texts.
In the beginning, Meghan had the ultimate weapon on her side, public sympathy. She was the outsider stepping into the world's oldest monarchy, and millions were ready to cheer for her against the so-called royal machine. For a while, it worked. She was seen as the modern, independent woman shaking up tradition. But sympathy has an expiration date, and Meghan burned through hers fast. Poll after poll now shows her popularity has collapsed in both the UK and the US. And the reason is simple. The more she spoke, the less believable she became. From the contradictions in the Oprah interview, to the infamous near-catastrophic car chase in New York, to lawsuits that made little sense, every time details unraveled, credibility took another hit.
Present moment is, I don't think he feels in any way guilty. I don't think Harry feels any remorse. And I think that is the key thing in all this reconciliation. He still thinks that he's owed an apology from Charles and from William for the way they've treated not only him but also Meghan.
Instead of a strong, relatable figure, people saw someone constantly shifting the story to fit the moment. Instead of Diana's vulnerability, they saw calculation. Instead of authenticity, they saw strategy. And once the public believes you're always spinning, it doesn't matter what you say next. The default reaction is doubt. And here's the dangerous part. Once credibility is gone, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Meghan isn't just distrusted now. Critics say she's entered the zone where every word is treated like fiction. That's not a bad headline. That's a permanent stain. But it's not just her public image that's collapsing. Her entire brand, the deals, the money, the global influence, is now falling apart piece by piece.
That will make the money. I mean, she's simply, she's got a brass neck, as we would say. She really doesn't bother. She can see this way. She's probably looked at the king selling his,
Look at the trail of wreckage. Spotify didn't just end their deal. Executives openly mocked it as a flop. Netflix, once the crown jewel of the Sussex empire, is reportedly cooling on them, pushing fewer projects and quietly moving away. Hollywood elites who once posed for photos are now keeping their distance. Even the royals themselves, the very family Meghan built her entire story around, barely acknowledge her existence. This is the opposite of what she planned. When Meghan left the UK, she imagined building an empire of media, influence, and admiration. For a short time, it looked possible, but now the reality is brutal. Instead of being remembered as the next Diana, she's remembered for contradictions, lawsuits, staged photo ops, and endless PR spin. Tom Bower calls it the collapse of an empire, and he's right. From the Yacht girl, whispers that never died, to the failed Diana copycatting, to the contradictions that could flood the earth, the cracks in her marriage, and Hollywood's rejection, it all adds up to one devastating conclusion. Meghan's brand isn't just wounded, it may already be finished. And that's the real question now. Is this the end of Meghan Markle's carefully crafted narrative? Or does she still have one last scandal left to keep herself relevant?
Sense for who really Gwyneth Paltrow is. We know exactly who Martha Stewart is, but we've not seen a consistent Meghan. If your first introduction to Meghan Markle and a
So here we are. Tom Bower has ripped apart Meghan's story piece by piece. The yacht rumors, the Diana obsession, the contradictions, the cracks in her marriage, and the collapse of her Hollywood brand. What was once a royal fairy tale is now being described as an empire built on spin, collapsing under its own weight. But here's the real question. Is Meghan's brand truly finished? Or will she find a way to reinvent herself yet again? Maybe one last shocking move to drag herself back into the spotlight, even if it means another scandal. I want to hear what you think. Has Tom Bower finally ended Meghan's carefully scripted narrative? Or is there still one more chapter left? Drop your thoughts below, because the debate about Meghan Markle isn't slowing down anytime soon. And if this bombshell is only the beginning, imagine what could be revealed next.